Personal Pronouns, written by David Allen Edmonds, narrated by James C. Minter.
I don't know how long it took for her to die. I already told you that.
Joe dug his heels of his hands into his eyes.
Several times.
Tell me again. Joe Lehrer flicked his thumbnail with his index finger. Hastings demanded he bare his soul, while keeping the office light low and hiding in the shadows himself. Joe unlocked his jaw and began again.
3, 4, maybe 4 seconds a minute. I don't know.
Joe spoke quickly, the words running into one another, overlapping. Hastings nodded.
All I remember is that when I close my eyes are disconnected flashes. Never a pattern, the fragments, the time itself. Shit!
He forced himself to continue.
There was a thump, a crash, and she screamed. More a cough than a scream.
Joe's voice broke.
Like she was gagging.
A few seconds passed, then Hastings prodded. And? Joe squeezed his face with his hands, his voice now a bark.
And? What the hell do you think? That's when it smashed her face in. That's when...
Hastings took a breath. Tell me what you saw exactly. Joe's voice came from someplace outside of him. Disconnected. Monotone. Glass. Flying in. The thump. The glass whipping my face. And my mouth. His eyes were unfocused. One hand gestured vaguely. I can't do this anymore. The light from the table lamp caught the edge of the scar on his forehead. Hastings wasn't sure how hard he should push. When you're ready, he said in what he felt was his most reassuring voice. Joe screamed and jumped to his feet.
When I'm ready? How the fuck can I be ready? For what? My wife to die?
Joe spun, looking for a way out. An animal trapped. His flailing arm caught in the table lamp and smashed it to the floor. His head jerked to the sound. His shoulders sagged. His arm slumped to his side. Hastings was halfway to his feet before the man dropped back onto the sofa. He wanted to both comfort Joe and to protect himself from him. His hand shook as he adjusted the lampshade on his desk. Joe sobbed, the sound racking and tearing as it escaped. Hastings set the box of tissues on the cushion beside Joe. He was surprised when Joe began to speak.
The car kept going by itself. Right, then left, then right again. I don't know how. My hands weren't on the wheel. I was just trying to reach her.
Hastings picked up his notebook. Joe had curled himself into a ball, his face buried in his shoulder.
When the car stopped rolling, I was above her, hanging in the seatbelt.
Hastings kept his breathing steady and strained to hear. Joe's voice bled into the air.
The whole thing was like an eclipse. Brilliant sunlight, then dark. The black came up the hood, across the windshield, hit her face. We were under an overpass, in the shadow. Car was on its side. Couldn't get out of the seatbelt.
The ligaments in Joe's wrist and the muscles in his forearm stood out against his skin. His hands were balled like the rigid knobs of a burn victim.
I couldn't reach her because of the goddamn seatbelt.
At that, Joe's attention snapped to Hastings' pen.
And you're writing?
He spat.
I'm talking and you're writing it down? That won't bring her back?
Hastings checked his growing frustration. We're not trying to bring her back.
Then why do I have to?
Joe let out a deep, tortured sigh. His arms now slack on his lap.
The son of a bitch wouldn't let up. She died in the shadows, Jerry. 2 seconds? 2 minutes? What difference does it make?
He bore his eyes into Hastings.
Is that enough?
Hastings willed himself not to respond to Joe's anger. After a pause, he said, I don't know. I wasn't there. Joe spoke without thinking.
Just before it happened, she's happy. We both are. Together in the car. First weekend school is out. Sunroof open. Laughing.
He paused as if hearing the word for the first time.
Laughing.
He whispered.
Sunlight on our faces. We spin out, roll over, end up in a ditch. She's dead. Last thing she says.
Joe spoke to himself as he faced Hastings.
The last thing. I might be pregnant.